Good
afternoon, members. We have reached the appointed time and we have also formed a quorum, so let's get started. First item, confirmation of minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of October. The draft has been sent to members. The Secretariat hasn't received any proposed amendments so far. So may I invite members to confirm the minutes now? Thank you, Mr. Andrew Leung. Item number 2, information paper issued since the last meeting. There is none. Item 3, date of next meeting and items for discussion. We have a regular meeting in January. We need to reschedule that meeting. On the 16th of January, the policy address will be delivered. So we are going to reschedule this for the 23rd of January from 9 a.m. to 10:30. Is it okay? This clash with the caucus meeting of the Democratic Party. Can we be given another alternative? Well, there are bound to be clashes. I have already done my best. Please try your best to attend. Items for discussion, the CE's 2012-13 policy address, and we are going to discuss the relevant policy initiatives. Additionally, we are going to discuss promotion of invert investment. That is number 2 on the list. Members, do you have any comments on the items for discussion for the next meeting? If not, I take it that the proposed agenda is endorsed. Number 4, research and development of Chinese medicines. I'd like to invite the administration team to join us. I'd like to welcome from the Innovation and Technology Commission, Ms. Janet Wong, and also Dr. Cecilia Pang, Biotechnology Director, and Mr. John Hong, Secretary General, Hong Kong Council for Testing and Certification. Ms. Wong, thank you for your present. Is this a Christmas gift? Well, this is for the Innovation and Technology Bazaar. Well, it's a local design from the author of McMurk and McDowell. Thank you. We are all in support of innovation in Hong Kong. Commissioner, I think you are going to show us a video clip, right? Yes, it's on our work. It's specifically on testing and accreditation. It will last for a few minutes. Let's view the clip first.
中藥取材天然，主要用作
Chinese medicines are natural herbs used for treatment and prevention of disease. It represents the wisdom of Chinese culture for thousands of years, and we have been trying to coordinate and promote a multilateral approach in cooperation. Through the ITC, we set up the Committee on Research and Development of Chinese Medicine in 2011 to explore the strategy on testing and accreditation of Chinese medicines and to liaise with various stakeholders in collecting views and sharing the fruit of research, and to promote international cooperation and cooperation with the mainland, as well as public participation and consultation. To enhance people's confidence on Chinese medicine, using scientific certification is a good approach, and we have the potential to develop this industry in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Council for Testing and Certification provides technology support and also enhance local practitioners' competency, so that we can set up Hong Kong's standards for Chinese medicines. More than 10 accredited labs are now providing the testing and accreditation services for Chinese medicines that live up to international standards. The Hong Kong Council for Testing and Certification also support the Hong Kong Productivity Center to provide services aiming at ensuring safety and quality of Chinese medicines. In the second phase of Hong Kong Science Park, we intend to develop a cluster of industries, and Chinese medicine will be covered. There are 10 CM-related companies in the Science Park providing services such as lab services and other services, so as to reduce the development costs on Chinese medicine. In the second phase, apart from lab equipment and apparatus, there will also be technicians providing support. There will also be a biotechnology incubation project to provide office, commercial matching, and financial assistance. And the industrial estates under the ITC would also provide premises to support the Chinese medicine manufacturing industry in Hong Kong. Through software and hardware, we aim at promoting CM, and the committee will also embark on publicity through various channels to enhance public understanding. The committee, together with the Department of Health, the Hong Kong Council for Testing and Certification, and other parties, organized a major seminar on Chinese medicines. 400 participants took part in the deliberations. They look into the latest lab tests, standards, and accreditation, as well as local and regional cooperation. They also look at a number of HA's sponsored research projects. The response was enthusiastic and encouraging. And on local newspapers, we publish special supplement to enhance people's understanding of the latest development in research and development of Chinese medicine and our achievement. And for the first time, the Commission cooperated with the RTHK in launching CM theme programs. The hosts and the guest speakers talk about treatment, modifications, QC, and research of CM. The messages are presented in an easy-to-understand format through the support of the government and the sector. In the very first year of the establishment of the committee, good progress has already been made. We believe that there is a great potential here in Hong Kong, and it's hoped that with our high-level research capabilities, we'll be able to give full play to the potential of Chinese medicine, which has been serving us for thousands of years, and also to bring it to the international arena. Thank you for your video presentation. You've also given us a paper. Will you be walking us through the paper? Well, this paper is actually a report on a few fronts: the promotion of CM, stakeholders cooperations, scientific research, and testing of products, and so on. I won't waste any more of your time by repeating the points. I'm happy to take questions. Mr. Lu Weiguo, first of all, I have to declare my interest as a member of the Hong Kong Council for Testing and Certification. But I'm not a member of the panel on CM. So for this paper, I have a question here. The mainland is the biggest producer and the biggest market as far as CM is concerned. Hong Kong want to promote Chinese medicines, but we have different requirements in terms of registration, eligibility, and they are different from the mainlands. So it's important that we coordinate the different standards properly in order to attract manufacturers to do testing and accreditation in Hong Kong. So whatever we do, we must first of all gain recognition from the mainland, or else people can only go to the mainland direct for accreditation. May I be informed of the progress so far? And there's another question which should have been more properly answered by Dr. Koh Wen Man. And the development of CM depends a lot on clinical treatment and clinical research. But all along, we don't have any well-established hospitals offering CM. So this is a big constraint on us. And local graduates of CM find it difficult to get internship opportunities. Many of them have to go to the mainland to do just that. So maybe this matter should be looked into by the related departments and bureaus. And I'm talking about the development of CM hospitals. Two questions, Commissioner. Testing and accreditation first. Yes, we have different standards that are different to mainlands. They have national standards and we have Hong Kong standards. This is coordinated by the Department of Health. We have covered 200 most commonly used Chinese medicines. So in terms of testing and accreditation, we would apply Hong Kong standards, the chemical composition, the places of origin have all been set out. And then we can publish a kind of a dictionary for the market. Mr. Hong, in a moment, will give you more details. As for clinical experiment, well, it's much more complicated. Dr. Koh is responsible for the coordination of clinical affairs, but we, on our part, we promote scientific research. Therefore, we would like to play a part as well. In terms of Chinese medicine materials, we have been able to provide a good authentication service, but whether they are effective or the efficacy is a much more important issue to handle. You may have to compare two different groups to establish that. There is a lack of documentation or documentary proof for that. And also for the integration of Western medicine and Chinese medicines, we are also promoting clinical experiments under the ITF. And we have been working with the two medical schools in Hong Kong and also the Chinese medicine faculties in Hong Kong to invite them to apply for funding support from the ITF to carry out research projects. Mr. Hong can say something about the testing side, and the doctor can say something about the test. Dr. Pan, because in Hong Kong, we only started to carry out testing on the Chinese medicines after CM was covered by our regulatory system. So the system got started only at that point. In the initial phase, we in fact, require assistance from the mainland, and some mainland labs were appointed for the testing of proprietary Chinese medicine from Hong Kong. In recent years, because of the regulatory requirements, they have gradually developed their capabilities. And we have 10 such labs in Hong Kong, which have been accredited to carry out tests on safety and register-related tests for CM. In terms of standards, mainland Chinese medicine is subject to their own code and national standards. In Hong Kong, the code or national standards plays a supplementary role. And many of them have been able to carry out in Hong Kong tests based on Chinese code. And in order to develop our testing and accreditation sector, and because of CEPA, we have been trying to seek recognition from the mainland. And of late, we mainly concentrate on consumer products, and we mainly look at safety and of products. And we'd certainly like the mainland to accept our test results on Chinese medicines, and we hope this will be a gradual process of opening up.
Dr. Pang, please. Thank you. And as to the question by a member regarding clinical research, maybe I can do some supplementary additions. In terms of developing of medicine, it is a process. And each medicine, from the beginning of research to going to the market, it needs different stages of experimentation. First, it needs to be certified in laboratory that this medicine has effective to life, and then must undergo animal testing to see whether there's any toxicity to this medicine in terms of long-term or short-term effects. And after this, then it can go under clinical research. And there is an international standard for this called clinical practice. As I understand, and for Chinese medicine, the Committee for Chinese Medicine has asked for the clinical testing for Chinese medicine has to undergo the standards, the GMP. And we've also, along with China's SFDA, to study how can we, according to us, to the Hong Kong environment, we do not have Chinese medicine hospitals, to develop a clinical testing for Chinese medicine that will be in accordance with international standards. Next, we have another question from members. Mr. Liu Chongqing. Yes, I'm wondering about how the law protection for this particular industry, as we all know, in terms of our own intellectual property rights, is not sufficient to cover this for traditional Chinese medicine. For international society, there's been discussion for the past 20 years in protecting biodiversity, intellectual property. We do not have a consensus because each particular country have their own interests that they have to protect. So some traditional countries will protect this traditional idea, but other countries may have different views. I don't think there will be consensus even in the next 20 years. In the past, in China's governmental meeting with the NPC, we've discussed that should there be for Greater China, should we be at the vanguard of law protection for this, or to protect, or like other countries such as Brazil or India, to set up a protection system to set up for the international community, to set an example or precedent. I would like to ask the government whether they have any views on this. Is there anything that we can do? There's been discussion on this, and what kind of works have been undertaken? Yes, thank you, Commissioner. According to, as Mr. Liu has said, in terms of a Greater China region, in terms of the legal side, we have not done this yet because this is very complex. Each individual country, whether or not they actually want to do this, to be led by another country, as I understand now, is not something that we can do now. As you mentioned it today, I will go back and consider this more. In terms of IP protection, in terms of Hong Kong, it's rather hard to protect the materia medica. But in terms of proprietary Chinese medicine, that is things that are packaged. So the Department of Health has enforced this, and they have been stricter on this. And perhaps Dr. Pang can supplement this. Dr. Pang, please. Thank you, Chairman. In terms of registration of medicine, is very locally based. In terms of Hong Kong, that is the medicine that is sold here, the PCM that is sold here, is regulated by the Department of Health, and those types of proprietary CM has to be registered. And it's being conducted in different stages. And before 1999 March, and those products can be registered in a temporary basis, but medicine afterwards has to undergo a non-temporary certification. I want to mention that I'm not talking about registration. We don't have a protection system. A trademark cannot protect this. I hope that there can be a more effective legal scheme. I hope that the government will discuss this. Yes, thank you, Commissioner. It may not be something that just us can handle. Perhaps the intellectual property or the Department of Health will have to cooperate with us on this. So perhaps I need to go back and discuss with our colleagues on this. And then I can supplement some information with this, or I can directly seek out Mr. Liu and explain our initial findings. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, is Miss Emily Lau. Yes. This particular document states that Hong Kong, due to its cultural background, its geographic location, as well as its wide acceptance of Chinese medicine, has developed a mature Chinese medicine market. Now, Chairman, in terms of research and development, I think Hong Kong can do a lot more. So, in the last session for LegCo, we say that the HKJC ICM has to be disbanded. Actually, the panel disagreed with this, and there was a great uproar. So why is it do we need a commissioner to head this new organization? I think this is a regret. Hong Kong has all these great conditions. So why is it that it takes so long to develop something substantial? So can the commissioner explain that now that the HKJC ICM has disbanded, has all the obstacles been removed? So of course there's one thing that has been mentioned now. But another thing, perhaps it's the copyright of Western medicine. So for example, chiropractors are not doctors, or veterinaries are also not medical doctors. They have very strict standard as to who can be called a medical doctor. So I hope you can tell me what. So after the disbandment of the HKJC ICM, which caused a lot of distress. So, and Mr. Liu has asked you a question, and then you said that, I need to go talk to the Department of Health or some other departments. So, of course, this talks about a lot of different departments, but it seems that, do we need to coordinate? This is so hard to coordinate everything. I mean, look at Carrie Lam. She has become so thin after coordinating everything. So is it that the Chinese medicine in Hong Kong is not progressing and is only just staying in the same place? I'm not talking about you, Chairman. Yes, I understand. Commissioner. Of course, I don't think we are progressing backwards. I think we are improving. So last time we did discuss with the panel a long time regarding the disbandment of HKJC ICM. It has finished its historic mission, and the members of that particular group, if you compare it with our new committee, we are more comprehensive. We have the main Hong Kong universities in this area, as well as the most prominent members of the industry have come in. So there are a lot of representatives from the industry. So if you look at the broadness of the committee members, as well as the topics that can be discussed, the new system is definitely better. So in talking about Chinese medicine, it really does involve many different concepts. So for us, the HKCTC, as well as for the Bureau for Food and Health Safety Bureau, so we do different things. So what we mainly do is research and development, as well as support for the industry. Because what we used to be 10 or 20 years ago is for industries. So that would include the science parks or industry estates. That's our responsibility. But in terms of regulating for Chinese medicine, or even as Mr. Liao discussed, the legal aspects, is something that is very broad, and we cannot decide everything ourselves. So we really do need to discuss with our colleagues. In terms of the documents, we've already put down some of our actions in the past year. So I think some of the actions cannot have been undertaken by the previous organizations, such as right now we have certification and testing. Also, I think the communication between different departments, I think it's a little bit strange, because the HKJC ICM is under a company. Actually it was under ICM. So now it's much better because we have a very good platform to discuss discuss issues with practitioners of the industry. So we all think that right now the communication is very good. Thank you, Chairman. Now, Chairman, now, of course, Mr. Liao is in this legal sector. Of course, I don't really understand it, but I want to talk about Appendix 1. The Committee on Research and Development for Chinese Medicine. We can see the members list. Now, Mr. Liao is not talking about registration. He's talking about IP protection. Is that a very important link? If it is, you can see that it does not exist here. The committee member do not have any members who can talk about this, and they don't discuss it in the meetings. So is any of these more important? Or are you just saying that Mr. Liao is only just discussing stuff? So I really hope that you can succeed, Commissioner. If you're just saying that, oh, you have an organization, but you cannot have effectual leadership, and then you disband it a few years later, then it seems that CM development in Hong Kong will be in a very dire state. Yes, I want to answer to Ms. Lau's question. In terms of CM intellectual property, in our government, it involves many different departments, and the main department that's handling this is the intellectual property development, because it takes a lot of different media. So
the IPD is the main organization for the protection of IP rights, and Chinese medicine is just one aspect. When we devised the terms of reference of the committee, we did not take on board IP rights, because we are mainly there to promote R&D and to offer support to the sector. IP protection may be conducive to the promotion of CM. We may have to take this into account. When you talk about scientific research, you cannot ignore IP rights. If we go on like this, 1 or 2 years later, we may have another story of failure, and we need to start everything again. Well, I'm a layman, and Mr. Liu has told you that he has raised the issues at the MPC, and therefore we must pay attention to those questions. We must take on board all the essential elements for the promotion of CM. Otherwise, we'll be moving in circles. Chairman, do you get what I mean? Yes, I do. And the membership, I think Ms. Emily Lau is saying that there are no lawyer on the committee. And I'm not sure whether you need some, but please take a look and follow up the matter. Mr. Liu, can you? I want to follow up an issue raised. Can you please wait for your turn in the next round, Ms. Ann Chang? I want to follow up a point made by Ms. Emily Lau. Commissioner, I read the paper. I read it last night. I regard this as a big development plan, and so I'd register a big question in my mind right away. First of all, what's your objective? Where are you leading the CM sector to? Because I don't see the direction. You have been doing something, the sector has been doing something, and it's not that you have done nothing. But we have to consider, well, I've been a businessman for quite some time. There's a big question that we have to consider in my view. You want to bring together the government, the academics, the industry and the research sectors. Mr. Liu asked you to consider IP sector, but we lack one particular sector, and you can never get a start. And I'm talking about marketing people. I know you have a few hundred doctorate degree holders, but you need salespeople, because you need to know your future market before you embark on research, and you should be led by market needs in setting your direction. You must have some team members who are specialized in sales. Please don't answer my questions today, because I'm talking about things you haven't done. Maybe next time or in the future, let's have another discussion. I'm not blaming you. We know that officials tend to be just good civil servants, but they don't have an overall vision, the ultimate goal that one wishes to achieve. Please don't use a mixed code. It's difficult for interpretation. It cannot be done. Noted. I want to know about your development plan. What are you trying to do, and the timetable of achieving your goal? And then you can tell us the ultimate goal that you want to achieve. I'm glad to see the video clip, and I try very hard to find the objective, and I caught the last phrase. You want to bring Chinese medicine to the international arena. How? That's why your development plan is important. Also, apart from this big committee, I would like to know, well, I think you need to consider a few more things. I don't know whether you have done so. If not, you don't have to give me an answer right away. Please go back and discuss the matter with your bureau under the committee. We have different standards, mainland standards, Taiwan standards, Hong Kong standards, which may or may not be quite the same. We have to sell Chinese medicine products to the standards where standards are acceptable, and maybe by setting our standards, we can affect international setting of standards as well. So you may wish to set up a task force on standards. Well, you must leave some time for the officials to reply. Second, I think it's important to look at marketing and sales. I have to impose a time limit from now on, 3 minutes. I still have 1 more minute. We all want to see this be done and be successful. And our ETOs may be able to do something on overseas promotion. Present, they tend to organize cultural performances, line dance, singing, and so on and so forth. They may be able to help in the promotion of Chinese medicine. And under the committee, there should be a subcommittee or task force on tonic food. And you have laws regulating food items, but there's none on tonic food. I hope you can look into all these areas. I don't expect immediate answers today. Mr. Wang Tingguang. In paragraph 3 and paragraph 28, 2 committees are mentioned. In paragraph 3, we have the Committee on Research and Development of Chinese Medicines. And also 28, there's another committee with a similar name, Chinese Medicine Development Committee. So the research is not there in the second committee. What's the difference between the two? What's the division of labor between the two? And what are their compositions? Second question. I know the Chinese Medicine Development Committee, or the Institute of Chinese Medicine, was disbanded towards the end of the previous legislative term. And now you are preparing on setting up a new one. Have you managed to set up one now? What's the progress so far? So my questions are the difference between the 2 committees, and also the preparation work for the new institute. Of the 2, the one in paragraph 28 would adopt a more macro perspective is led by Dr. Kuo Wing-man, is the Chinese Medicine Development Committee. It will look at treatment using CM, regulation of medical practitioners come under Dr. Ko's Bureau and the Department of Health. But we are not concerned about regulation of practitioners. So that committee would adopt a macro perspective. I believe Dr. Koh's committee will be coordinating things related to a bigger field in respect of Chinese medicine and Chinese medicine practitioners. Traditionally, what comes under my commission is can be categorized into two. We are responsible for promoting R&D into various subjects, computer, environmental protection, and the development of Chinese medicine is under the ITF, and that is the development of Chinese medicinal products. We also provide support to the sector. This is so-called GMP, the good manufacturing practice, and we are tasked with enhancing or upgrading manufacturing standards. Of course, we are also coordinating efforts from the government, industry, academic, and research sectors. And we're talking about products. What's the progress? Are you talking about the one in paragraph 28? Okay, so that's one that's under Dr. Koh. In September and October, I paid a visit to Dr. Koh. I reported to him what had been happening on my side. Dr. Koh's committee may develop to such a stage that I would have to tie in, and I certainly would tie in. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, in the past few years we have quite a number of contacts with the Commissioner. Well, from what she has told us, we know that it's a mammoth task. A lot of efforts are required. And even with unanimous objection from members, she disbanded the Hong Kong Jockey Club Institute of Chinese Medicine all the same. We cannot understand why she would like to do that. And she also chaired our committee to do just that. So we are now waiting in very eagerly what the new committee can do in the promotion or in the expansion of CM. So we would wait with a lot of eagerness for new achievements under the new committee. For GMP in manufacturing, it's not mandatory at the present moment, but I think this is the way to go. According to the paper, and I understand that only 10 manufacturers are now recognized as PCM manufacturers. How many manufacturers or CM manufacturers are there in Hong Kong? So what's the percentage taken by the 10 PCM manufacturers? You said the task force have had 2 meetings. So some manufacturers have limited knowledge about GMP, and training is needed. You have to understand that when you want to practice GMP, you have to invest a lot of money up front, millions or even tens of millions of dollars. And these manufacturers may not be able to earn that much during their lifetime. And they're suffering from lack of knowledge, lack of funds, and lack of sufficient training. Although we know GMP is the future direction. So what can the government do to address this? Do you have any objective to achieve? You have 10 certified PCM manufacturers now. For example, in 2013 to 2015, how much more manufacturer will be assisted to get the GMP certification? Do you have any concrete plan for training, for example? Commissioner, this is an important subject. The Department of Health and my commission are in close liaison, because the Department of Health is responsible for the monitoring side, and we have checked with the DFH that they haven't got a timetable. We all know that sufficient time is required to take things forward. There's no dispute that we need to upgrade standards, but the question is how to go about it and how can we help the existing manufacturers. That's difficult. Dr. Pang would tell you more about the 10 PCM manufacturers. These are manufacturers of such a scope and size that they will be eligible to occupy some premises on an industrial estate, or they may be employing just 2 to 3 persons, and a flat, a unit in a factory building can easily fit them in. I've set up a committee with a representative from this industry, and you can see we have set out in the paper that we may be able to help in 2 areas. First of all, knowledge. Under GMP, we have to compare ourselves with the international standards, and a lot of literature is in English. These manufacturers may find it difficult to understand what would be required of them. So we will provide training or facilitate exchange of knowledge to enable them to understand GMP. And we are doing something with together with the Biotechnology Institute to explore the training opportunities at different levels. Maybe you need to have a big lecture for dozens of or hundreds of participants to give a general overview, and then a more in-depth discussion with smaller groups subsequently. The day before last, I visited an industrial estate. GMP, well, it's not about having the right machineries, but it's about the work processes, cleanliness, hygiene, and so on and so forth. Well, I've been very patient, but I don't quite understand the response. Please be focused in your response. You know, you have said that they lack knowledge, I agree, but please be focused. How can you solve their problems of lack of funding, for example? We know that going for GMP is a costly business. For big manufacturers, they can afford it, but most of them are SMEs who are financially not capable of doing this. So are you going to help them? Are you going to license them based on existing standards? They must solve the funding problems first. They cannot rely on winning a lottery. You have been talking about the use of English language in GMP literature, but perhaps you can tell us in more specific terms the training that you're going to provide them. Please be concise.
Dr. Peng, in terms of GMP for PCMs, as I understand, there are around 290 so registered Chinese medicine manufacturers, but only 10 has received the Hong Kong GMP license. Now, in terms of GMP in manufacturing medicine, there is a division between Hong Kong standards and international standards. Now, because Hong Kong's development of the CM has taken a lot of time, so a lot of small manufacturers, when they're operating, they cannot fulfill the requirements for GMPs. So I feel that first we must introduce them to GMPs, because there are a lot of these small enterprises, they don't even know what GMP is. Besides the infrastructure, in terms of the manufacturing process as well as their personnel, they also need to raise the standards for in those areas. So once they understand what GMP's basic concepts are, then they will have to decide whether or not it's worth it for them to be certified in the CMP, or should they find another way, or to have some contract manufacturers to sublet their manufacturing process. Thank you. I want to say one thing only. In the future, if the GMP is the requirement for licensing, I think one question is, it will need a lot of capital. So even if SMEs understand what GMP is, but they do not have capital and they need GMP to have a license, so what would you do then? Can they answer? But I think time is up. I think that is the essence of the question. Yes. But this is something that we discussed last year with the administration, and I have discussed it with the commissioner on this. Mr. Martin Liu. Thank you, Chairman. I don't think we need a greater China protection. First, we can have protection for Hong Kong, and then later on, in terms of development, we need a common protection. Because I always say that the mainland market is the biggest. So unless we only develop Hong Kong market, otherwise we do need a common protection scheme. Second, I think there must be some form of IP protection. As I hear from Commissioner, we're talking about R&D and clinical testing. All of these things really do need a lot of capital, a lot of human resources. If we do not have an IP protection, then no rational businessman will make this investment. So right now, the IP rights are not efficiently protected. For example, in trademarks, let's say, for example, I sell my Martin Liu brand, and then Lam Tai Fai sells his own brand. There's no protection then. So even though there may not be patent rights even for this, so we must need a new protection system. In terms of development, if you do not have sufficient legal protection, you will not have any development. I'm sure you've heard his opinions. Next, Mr. Kwok Wing Hang. Thank you. I agree with Mr. Liao in terms of legal protection. I think Mr. Lam's question, he didn't have enough time. I would hope that to give my time to him so that the Commissioner can answer his question. Yes, Commissioner. In terms of support for industry, in the past, we felt that if there is a facility that's helpful for the entire sector, we'll lend our hand. So to answer Mr. Lam, in terms of capital, so it's a good thing that we do have an innovation and technology fund that can help. And then documents is mentioned. Right now, a lot of universities and different organizations, when they are developing a new facility, we do help them. In terms of the ITF, is it sufficient? So we have $30 million for this. So if we do get support from you, then we'll go to the finance committee. But right now we are still looking into this. As I've explained, GMP is not just about machines. It's also about the manufacturing process. So there's something called central manufacturing. So what it is that it's like a kitchen. They have all these facilities, and they also have personnel who knows how to use those tools. And so they can make medicine based on the raw materials. So it's very fortunate that right now the HKIB is already doing this. So I'm thinking that in the future, if we're saying that GMP has mandatory, and so some may think that we must have GMP soon, then it's a great demand. So we're already discussing with HKIB. Actually, they're part of CUHK. I went there and looked at their facilities, and they're very good facilities. but it's the reach saturation level. So right now, we are discussing with them whether we can expand their facilities. If we can do that, that will be the fastest way to do this. Of course, the facilities right now may not be completely comprehensive for all of industry's needs. If all members are very interested in this, perhaps Dr. Pang can supplement this, because we have done a lot on this. Dr. Pang, please. Yes, thank you, Chairman. In terms of manufacturing of proprietary CMs, we think the manufacturers, a lot of times because they are now an SME, if they do change it to become a GMP manufacturing, they need to do a lot more research in order to reach the standards of GMPs. So if they really do understand GMPs, it may be that they want to not have GMPs for themselves, but to contract it out to contract manufacturer. So because of this, we've discussed and studied the HKIB's facilities, whether they can allot any facilities to the industry. So perhaps they can expand by twice or three times as large as presently now. So perhaps we can have different types of manufacturing process to provide for the industry. Yes. So Commissioner, we discussed this many times last session. So in terms of CMs, it's something that has great potential in Hong Kong. And as Mr. Lam Tai Fai said, I agree, and I do have discussed this with industry members. So is there some way so all these like small manufacturers, out of 209 SMEs, only 10 can achieve GMPs because you don't have the capital. Is there some way that we can have the government lead and build a GMP certified factories and then lease it to the SMEs? Because right now they don't have this capital. The government will build a GMP factory. And if they don't, and if the government does not do this, then maybe these SMEs cannot exist. So I hope that in terms of this particular area, it's something that should be accorded a priority. Yes, Chairman. Last time when you were discussing this with me, I really have done a lot and looked at a lot of different places. I agree with you. There is a need for some central facility, and it is capable. And we can help in terms of capital and manufacturing. So I do think that if you're asking these very small SMEs with maybe 2 or 3 employees to do this, it's very hard for them. So of course in the future, we do need to have agreements from CUHK and HKIB. I think right now, the fastest and most effective way to do this is to expand HKIBs, because they're already doing this now. Further, because HKIB is part of CUHK, they have trust from the industry, because everyone is really cautious about their formula. So I think in terms of trust for the people who are running the particular manufacturing facility is very important. So we've considered, for example, Science Park. But for us, the government, to build a facility, it would be very difficult. In the past 2 years, for us to justify new places for industry estate is something that has been a very arduous task. I remember last year we found a parcel of land after a long time in Yuen Long, but even that parcel of land there were a lot of complicated obstacles, such as there are a lot of containers over there. So I think if we need to find a parcel of land to build a facility, it will take too long to be effective. So I've also looked at industrial estates right now. Or is there existing industrial estates that's an empty building that can be reconstructed for our purposes? But I also looked at some parcel of land. I think there were some caves underneath it, so it's not suitable. Or for example, let's say that this facility used to be used for printing. When talking about drainage or other things, it would be very hard to change to suit manufacturing of CMs. So for HAIBs, because they are already manufacturing based on contract, they already have a pretty good platform. The only question is in terms of technology or whether or not negotiations with them. Because if we can do this, then it will be the fastest.
Commissioner, you have heard members. We know that the development of CM is important to Hong Kong. We know you have done a lot of things. But your plan will involve other departments, the Department of Health, Mr. Greg So's bureau, and other departments. Members, do you think we should convene a bigger meeting and call more departments to send people to attend? And perhaps this sector can come and tell us the difficulties they face. And perhaps the members of the new committee can also come to speak to us. Because innovation and technology is just a small part of the whole thing, and it's a cross-departmental business. And as Mr. Lam Tai-Fai said, the manufacturers may want to go for GMP, but they are financially incapable of doing this. And on the other hand, the Department of Health may impose a deadline for this. You want to support the sector, but the sector feels that there is no support coming from you. Mr. Lam Tai-Fai, you propose that we invite the sector, the industry, and other departments to come. Well, that's a good thing. But first of all, we must have the government mindset changed. Well, they are leading us going in circles. And then there is also some digression as well, as Mr. Liu has put it. Well, the industry has to make a living. They are busy. We should not invite them to come here and listen to convoluted speeches. Things are not moving forward. I hope the government should put down its feet and do some practical things. For example, we want to be very specific. What are you going to do about the lack of capital or provision of training? Please don't say that as far as possible I will do this or I might do that, because if that's the case, a meeting is going to be a waste of time. Commissioner, all along our committees always have representatives from the industry, and as Ms. Jiang has put it, sales is an important part, and Dr. Pang may supplement in a moment. We need to do two things at the same time. Training, we need to let them understand what this is about. I've already talked about support in terms of hardware, and there's another part, and that is demand assessment. We have talked to some chambers of commerce. We don't want to have products produced with the assistance of public funds and nobody wants them. So we are discussing with the industry on how to carry out a demand assessment. We know you are all very concerned about this, but that's why we are going to do different things in parallel. But in the May, that we need to cover all the three areas that I've talked about. Well, these are manufacturers. Their products are popular. The efficacy is considered good. But if the government or the Department of Health insists on GMP, they will have to close down. It's not a problem of a lack of a market. So you're unable to help them to go for GMP. And we want to keep the 280 odd CM manufacturers, PCM manufacturers, because if the Department of Health insists on GMP, they will have no more market. At present, they can sell their product not just locally, but also to the mainland. If we want to set up a facility to run GMP production lines, it's not that easy, because when we talk about medicine, safety comes first. But at least 10 manufacturers can do this. Why is it that the government as a whole cannot do what those manufacturers can do individually? Are you saying that you are not as capable as an individual GMP manufacturer? Dr. Pan, if I may, Chairman, as I've said, GMP manufacturing is not just about meeting requirements on hardware. There are requirements on the work processes. Of the 280 odd manufacturers, they have been doing this for decades. Some of them have only got 2 to 3 people. Some are family businesses. Although the proprietary medicines are considered effective and they are wanted in the market, there's no evidence-based accreditation. So even if you give them the hardware, they will not be able to comply with GMP requirements. So we need to instill, first of all, provide the training and let them know about GMP. And then we will provide resources to do a gap analysis. So they need to look at their present processes and then try to see what should be done if they want to get a GMP certification. And then we can assess how many of these manufacturers can ultimately be GMP certified. Ms. Emily Lau, we all want to get things done. Well, you need to know the needs and then try to find solutions. Actually, you are doing this, but you're sort of saying that the chances of survival are not good. There are requirements. We have to face the reality. There are a few hundred of them. They have been around for years, but maybe ultimately they cannot survive. If their products are no good and may harm people, there should have already been cases of fatalities. But so far, there's none. And we should be concerned about the failure of hundreds of Chinese medicine manufacturers, because how can we develop CM in Hong Kong with so many manufacturers gone? In May 2010, the Department of Health issued a circular asking for GMP certification on renewal of their licenses. Well, that's already a done deal, right? So we have 200 odd of them, and you are implying that none of them can comply with the standards. So how are you going to deal with the aftermath? These 200 odd manufacturers are going to be closed down. What are you going to do about that? It's too early to talk about that. You know that it costs millions or tens of millions of dollars to go for GMP. They can't afford this. For pills to be taken orally, the GMP standards are even higher. We have to be realistic, otherwise we'll just be seeing them going under one by one. The first thing and the most important thing is that the Department of Health wants to have this, but there's no time limit imposed at the moment. So first we need to do training, and we have to do this with the Department of Health, because the Department of Health knows well what the requirements are. The manufacturers may not be able to do it, or they may not want to do it. So we have to ascertain their wishes first. We need to have a thorough process whereby we know more about their ability to comply, or the assistance that they may need from the central level. We know that asking for a small manufacturer to buy all the equipment will be very difficult. The ITC through the ITF would be very willing to solve their immediate problems. But what should we do? What measures should be launched, and to what extent should we be doing it? We need to consult the manufacturers, because if we just build a facility, the manufacturers may decide to invest their money elsewhere, and we will have unused facilities. Miss N. Jiang, rather. We have manufacturers who are already there and who can comply with GMP and the like. They also have problems. For example, in relation to the accreditation standards, there are different standards on the mainland and in Hong Kong. If the mainland can recognize products manufactured in Hong Kong, or the Ministry of Health can recognize our Hong Kong certificate, if the two sets of standards are similar or compatible, if you go for higher standards, you may risk losing the recognition from the mainland, because the mainland is a big market. According to some manufacturers, they face a daunting task of reapplying for accreditation for each and every product. Hong Kong as a market is a small one. If they want to serve a small market, they will remain in Hong Kong. If you ask them to invest a lot of money to expand their production lines and also to upgrade their manufacturing standards to Hong Kong standards or to GMP standards, they are going to have serious reservations. So what incentives can you offer, given that the investment is big? And so it's important that we tackle sales, because you can only produce if there's a market. So we need to look at market needs, or problems with the market must be resolved first. As the CE has said, we may need G2G efforts, government-to-government efforts. Otherwise, you cannot attract investors. Hong Kong has a very good opportunity to develop CM. We can develop our export markets, as your video has said. We can bring the Chinese medicine to the international arena. It would be a big achievement, even if it just brings CM to Chinese populations in overseas countries. You have done a marvelous task, given that you are just one department. But there are problems and issues that one department alone cannot resolve. Chairman, maybe you can sound out members here. You have made a very good suggestion concerning whether we should have an expanded meeting. We should spend more time to convene more meetings so that we can have all the discussions we need. Mr. Wong Ting Guang, I would like to remind the Commissioner of one thing. I think it's good that we can elevate the status of CM, but Hong Kong is also unique that we have many SMEs or small businesses in the manufacturing of CM. If you ask them to adopt very high standards, then in terms of capital and facilities, they are going to face major difficulties. Dr. Pang suggested that they might wish to consider going for contract manufacturing. We have to treat with care, because if they do this, Mr. Chairman, the SMEs are doomed. Not you, Mr. Chairman. The SMEs will be doomed. They will be taken over. I don't want to see these SMEs closing down. You may have good intentions. I understand that. But please proceed with care. You have to be mindful of the survival. It's just one blow would send them down under. So contract manufacturer may not be able to offer protection to SMEs. But there are different or traditional prescriptions and formula which has been proved to be effective, but you cannot really get scientific evidence to back you up. We hope that they can have standardized quality assurance procedures. So there's a conflicting situation. Please proceed with as much care as you can. Well, if there's no objection, perhaps I can ask the clerk to find a suitable time of having a meeting with government departments concerned.
Emily Lau, I am very worried that what Mr. Wong Ting Kong said will happen, that all these SME manufacturers will close, so it will be like supermarkets when everything is a park and shop or a welcome. So what about those SMEs? If they are forced to close down because of the government, it will be a big problem. I mean, we understand that there's a standard that we want them to adhere to, but I think in the process you will end the business of around 90% of these businesses. Is that something that we want to happen? So I think the Commissioner said earlier that they're not closing down yet, so it seems like they will close down eventually. So perhaps then that they cannot meet the standards that you set up, whether in capital or in personnel, then only a few big firms survive. A lot of Hong Kong citizens say that we should not have monopolies of the big companies. So I think we should discuss this. I do have a lot of discussions with the Chinese medicine sector. So what they said that it's not that a lot of them cannot handle a GMP process. It's that mainly that they don't have the capital to buy the machines. In terms of the products, that is their effectiveness, it seems that they do have this effectiveness. They have pretty good sales. So if we're just talking about 290 of them have to close down, it will be a pity. So why don't we ask them to come to discuss this? So how the government can help them. And I'm talking about very practical measures to help them. Okay? Okay, then thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Dr. Pang. Thank you. And now we enter the fifth item of the meeting. It's the adjustment to fees and charges under the purview of the Trade and Industry Department. Why don't we ask the administration representatives? First, I want to welcome the officials. Mr. Brian Lowe, JP, Deputy Director General of Trade and Industry, Commercial Relations, Controls and Support. Mr. Raymond Wu, Principal Assistant Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. I think there are some documents for us. Yes, thank you. Maybe I can very briefly talk about the documents. It's talking about strategic commodities in terms of the fees and charges, and we hope to adjust them. And under the user pay principles, the fees and charges should cover the cost, and it should be reviewed every year. And if there is a need, then we'll adjust it. So in terms of this, we have undertaken a review, and we propose to adjust the fees in the following way. So for delivery verification certificate as well as international import certification. So these two items should increase by $25 and $9 respectively. In terms of the details, it's in the annex. So these two certificates, we do not issue them. We do not issue a lot of these certificates, and we do have consulted with the Customer Liaison Group for Strategic Commodities and did not have any adverse views. So because the adjustment is not a large one, because these are under the import and export fees regulation. So after hearing members' views, we will ask for vetting by the relevant subcommittee. So next January, we hope that if there are no objections, we hope to gazette it in January and table it before the council. Thank you. Any questions from members? If not, I want to ask a deputy, what does it mean by strategic commodity? Thank you, Chairman. Strategic commodity, it can be divided into two categories. One is about military items such as armor, gunpowder, or some equipment. So another category of strategic commodities is some high technology items, but we can use it in everyday items, such as in electronics or communications, etc., or some chemical items. So these items that can be used to create weaponry. So they are strategic commodities. And then these commodities, in terms of trading, is regulated internationally to prevent these commodities will be used to create weapons of mass destruction. So as an important trade partner, Hong Kong has the responsibility to regulate the strategic commodities export and import. I want to ask you, in terms of military items, it seems that there's very few cases of this, so I want to know how many of them are there every year. Perhaps I should say that under Hong Kong law, what we require is that for the import and export of these items, they need a certificate. So every year, I'm talking about import certificate, they're around 80 to 90,000. And in terms of exports, it's around 130,000. So most of them, the great majority, underneath the dual category, as I said, that is advanced technology items, for example, for computers or communications. So a lot of these will come into Hong Kong and then be exported elsewhere. So looking at number 7 of this document, I think there is a financial implication. You estimate that the revenue increase to 970 per annum. So I think that's a very small amount. Do we really need this process to increase $970? I understand, Chairman. Perhaps I should just explain. Under the Hong Kong law for import and export for strategic commodities, the certificates necessary for them, those are free. We do not need any fees. But those certificates discussed in the documents, that is delivery verification certificate, when some exporters from outside of Hong Kong, let's say they want to export some weaponry to Hong Kong, and they want to certify that the items will come to Hong Kong, it will not go to some other countries, so they will ask the relevant government department to give to the exporter over there to certify that the products have come to Hong Kong. In terms of an international import certificate, is that some exporters, before they export, they want to ensure that the importer truly receive the authority from Hong Kong, that they will have a import certificate, that is, Hong Kong will take it. So some foreign exporters will, before the products come into Hong Kong, will ask Hong Kong to issue an international import certificate to ensure that they will actually do come to Hong Kong. So one of them is for after export and one of them is for before. So under the current rules, there is a specified fee that is charged for this. So even as Chairman says, every year only very few of these certificates are issued. For example, for the DBCs, they are only around less than 10 certificates issued every year, and the IICs only around less than 80 each year. But because in the rules it's specified how much we charge for them, so we do need to get the views from the members. And we do need to submit the annex with the specific fees to get review from members. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, as the deputy has said, these two certificates, one is delivery, one is import certificate, they are only issued very minimally each year. One's less than 10, one's less than 8 per annum. So it seems the increase this year is very small. But I'm a bit worried. So we're only starting now, and the process is not ended yet. So I want to ask, the deputy, in the future, when there may be more issues to come, will there be plans to adjust more? Right now, we know that the world economy is deteriorating. So a lot of industries are struggling. And there's inflation in everything. Fuel prices, and various indicators have fell. So right now it's not a vital wound, but it is still is harmful to industries. So I'm just wondering, in the future, so is this an omen for future increase of fees in other areas, even though there are only less than 100 and less than 80 of these certificates?
Thank you,
Mr. Wong, for your question. Please rest assured, this is no prelude, so to speak. As I have said in my introduction, This is in accordance with user pays principle. We need to review fees and government fees and charges annually to decide whether we have full recovery of costs. Under the T&I department, we have completed our annual exercise. We have reviewed 24 fees and charges, and only 4 would need adjustments. The remaining 20 have their fees and charges coming within 5% of actual costs. So we only are going to adjust 4 fees or charges. And they are set out in the law, in the schedule of a law. So we need to amend the law, i.e. the delivery verification certificate and the international import certificate. And that's why we have to consult the panel. The other 2 are the registration fees, which can be handled administratively. So that's why we haven't proposed those changes here for discussion. Deputy Chairman, I want to ask an interesting question. What is the situation with the trade of strategic commodities in Hong Kong? Thank you. This is a big question concerning Hong Kong's trade in strategic commodities. We can talk about the system first. There are 4 aspects. We have a legal framework regulating the import and export, the trade of strategic commodities. The trade is regulated so that unlawful elements will not be using Hong Kong as a base to proliferate materials for manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. And the T&I department runs a system to issue certificates to regulate the trade, the imports and exports. And the Customs and Excise department is the law enforcement agency with regard to the exporting or importing strategic commodities without certificates. And then another aspect is international cooperation. When it comes to illegal trade of strategic commodities, very usual is related to purposes on production of weapon of mass destruction. And we need support from the international community in terms of intelligence so that we know that certain commodities will be channeled through Hong Kong, and then we can inform the C&E department to enforce the law. So we regulate the trade in 4 areas. As I've said, we issue 330,000 certificates, export certificates annually, and another 180,000 for imports. We want to make sure that our industries can have access, can source high-tech products that they need. We also export high-tech products. If we cannot assure the international community that we adopt a very strict regime in controlling imports and exports of strategic commodities, then the US or Japan or other advanced economies may be concerned that strategic commodities may be transshipped to the other areas, that they don't want such commodities to go for the purposes of manufacturing weapon of mass destruction. Through such a system, we can ensure that our industries and businesses can continue to have access to high-tech products. You talk about 80,000 certificates, and you don't know the size of the orders, and then 300,000 for exports, right? For imports, importers, or we want to make it easy for importers. They can use one import certificate to cover a big order. They can apply for one certificate and import a large quantity of commodities. The shipments may arrive on different days. So our certificate will not require them to deliver the goods or to export the goods within a certain deadline. So the numbers of certificates are different. Sometimes such commodities may have to do with international safety. Do you have a early warning system or intelligence system? There are international organizations promoting cooperation on different materials such as nuclear weapons, biotechnology weapons, or dual-purpose commodities. There is international oversight, and there is also international cooperation. Hong Kong is not a member of such organizations, but we know that they have a list, a manifest of products covered by such control systems, and so we require certification for such commodities in order to comply with the international standards on regulating imports and exports of such commodities. So you have heard members, Director General, Mr. Wong Ting Kwong is concerned about fee increases, although the rate is not high, but do you have to push for such increases? And I find this rather unsatisfactory. That is, having done all these things, you are going to get additionally $970. Well, if you ask us to give the approval, we will, but isn't this somewhat disproportional? Well, I take your point, Mr. Chairman, but we have the user pays principle to comply with as a government department. We have to apply this principle, and we have to review regularly the fees and charges for the service we provide. So we need to adjust the fees this time. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, can we do this through negative vetting instead of having such a small exercise handled individually? Can we have a package instead, covering several items? As the chairman put it, you are not going to get another $1,000. You can't even cover the administrative expenses, and we have to pay a cost for that as well. We are going to do this annually, so please be assured that we are not going to present similar fee proposals in 2 or 3 months' time to the panel again. Well, this has to do with the amendment to a schedule. It's done through negative vetting. Well, it's the government's responsibility to facilitate the discussion in this panel for amendment of a schedule. If members think this is trivial and want to do it through circulation of papers, it's really up to the panel. Well, I don't want to argue with you anymore. I don't want to argue any more about the user pays principle. Suffice it to say that I have great reservations about it. Other members, thank you. Any more questions? Thank you all. Item 6, AOB. We have nothing under AOB. Thank you all for coming.